some updates on some of the markets. In Orlando's had 12% capital growth this year. It's up 38% from the low of 2010. Its inventory is at its lowest since 2006. And our partners on the ground there, the thing that we like about Orlando is that its anchor tenant is Disney World. It's not susceptible to tourism. So they had 50 million people come through the airport before the crash. They had 49 million come through the airport at the lowest point of the crash, and they're back to 50 million. And the type of tenant that you've got there is someone who's working at Disney World. 100,000 people are employed by Disney World, SeaWorld, and Universal Studios. And just to give you an idea, that what we've got in Orlando is very much what South Africans are used to. Sorry, I'm using my Mac for the first time presenting. And when I went to the Mac store, they said, once you go Mac, you can never go back. And I said, that's because you killed yourself. So, just to give you an idea, it's very much what South Africans are used to. It's the usual sectional title, 2-bedroom, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. You can see there, and this is all on your USP. The type of property prices are in and around the 70, probably between 65 and say $80,000. You can see there in terms of if they need to be renovated, the renovation cost. The only thing one needs to take into account in Orlando is that you've got the Homeowners Association. Now, in South Africa, can we agree that your body corporate fees are about 0.1%, maybe 0.15%, but let's just for simplicity's sake say 0.1. So if I buy for R1 million, I should pay about R1,000 a month. Happy? Yeah?
No, it's higher than that.
Higher than that? So you say 0.15%. Okay, so let's say 0.15%. So let's say it's R1,500 a month. Okay, at least if I'm spending, you're probably right, okay? So can we agree that if property prices here devalued to 500,000, my body corporate rate would still be 1,500 a month? It can't change because electricity still costs the same, the gardener costs the same, etc., etc. So the problem you've got in Orlando is that if you look, this property in 2006, 2007, the last sales price was $210,000. Now you're buying it for $74,000, and so the percentage, the Homeowners Association, the body corporate fee, takes quite a high percentage of the net yield. It's just something that one needs to take into account in Orlando. However, on the positive side, you have a body corporate, so you don't have to worry about the maintenance, etc., in terms of what people are looking at. So this here is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,000 square foot, which is about 100 square meters apartment. They all come within complexes with pools and facilities and everything else. And you can see the full cash flow in terms of what one can expect in terms of the insurance, the property management. Just lastly, in terms of a map, very simply, that there is the center of Orlando, over there. That there is the airport down there. This is Disney World, SeaWorld, Universal Studios. This road here, the I-4 is the main road. It's like, I don't know, I suppose the N1 going between, through kind of Johannesburg, Victoria. This property is based there. The best area of Orlando is what they call the northern suburbs.
Sorry, I couldn't see the where's the property?
Yeah, the house.
Oh, okay, got you.
So the best area in Orlando is the northern suburbs. It's like effectively the northern suburbs of Joburg here, where it's the older areas, it's more traditional areas, it's where the better schooling districts are. But then the nice thing is the tenant can jump on the I-4 and be straight down to work in either the city, Universal, SeaWorld, Disney World, the airport, everything. It's well located in terms of its location. So
I'm a bit surprised Orlando is not a trophy market. Everyone's heard of it.
it was a trophy market, and it is a trophy market. And what John Chin said is one has to be very specific and be very picky in terms of, because it's already had a lot of capital growth. So, but we're not interested in the high-end properties. So a lot of people, are, particularly like in Miami more than Orlando, a lot of the South American money's come in and bought trophy apartments, really nice apartments on the beach in downtown Miami, etc. In Orlando, they've gone for the vacation rentals, the more expensive houses, etc. We're talking more about the apartments that kind of the middle-income American would be working at. Yeah, condos, yeah, using their language, yeah.
Sorry, but what's stopping those people in Orlando purchasing apartments?
They can't get mortgages. So the banks are not lending. There's one apartment complex in the whole of Orlando that the banks are lending against. Think about it if you're a bank. Okay, if I lend to you and you want to buy a house, okay, my only risk is whether you pay for the house or not. Fair enough?
But there's a percentage that comes in. So for example, if they have to be 50% and this 5% you do it.
Yep.
50% is a lot. That's right, you do it.
Okay,
This
but
is it's working.
okay, I'll explain that, but let's for now I just want to stay between a house and an apartment because it's important. I'll answer your question, I will come back to you. But now, Clive over here, you want to buy a house, so my risk is only will you pay me or not? Okay. Clive wants to buy an apartment. Now I've got a problem because what happens if 50% of this apartment is being repossessed, they're not paying their body corporate, the homeowners association is the word they use there, is not being paid, the lifts are not being looked after. Now I repossess the unit of Clive, great, but what I do, I'm still within the complex, I've got a lot more risk that I can't manage because I can take back just his unit, but I'm in a complex. So what the banks are very nervous, it's not just an Orlando thing, it's across the whole of America, they're very nervous about lending to individual investors or homeowners on an apartment because they can't control the whole complex. Does that make sense? So that's why the banks, it's very difficult to get bank financing for anything, but they'll finance a home at the moment before they'll finance an apartment, which is a downside if one looks at it, but it's actually an upside because it's keeping the price of that. Why are you buying at $74,000 when the original price used to be $210,000? I'll answer your second question because I think it's very relevant to everyone else. Why is the average American not buying? And if anyone who's been to America wants to jump in, tell me but the three things that Brendan and I picked up when we were there in April last year. The first thing is that the average American has taken an absolute little psychological hiding. Okay, about 8 out of 10 people we met in April last year had lost a property. So not necessarily their home, but like Dolph DeRoos, his secretary had lost an investment property, had been repossessed. Okay, so their attitude is, psychologically, this whole property thing, solid, I'm not interested. Does that make sense? The second thing is that when they lost that property, they now got a bad credit rating. It takes between 3 to 7 years, depending on how they lost that property, to fix that credit rating. So even if I want to buy that apartment or that house or the house or the apartment, whatever, I can't get it because I've got a bad credit rating. And the third thing is that to use your example, so the bank says, right, there's quite a lot of risk here. Let's work on a 70-30 split, loan to value. Well, I don't have 30%, so I can't do it.
The Americans actually measure how much money they're going to spend by the repayment. So if you're driving around and you're looking at houses, it's like, how much is the repayment? If they're looking at cars, they don't actually advertise the price of the cars, they advertise how much it's going to cost per month. So they don't save, so they don't have the deposits, which means they can't buy.
And even if they do have the deposit, a lot of the properties that we look at are repossessed properties, and they still need to be renovated, refurbed, etc. So in the likes of Atlanta, as an example, the guys are spending between, on average, $13,000 to $15,000 in renovation. So they, not only the deposit, they don't have that to get it to a state. Does that make sense?
Freddie Mac's trying to implement a new thing now for first-time home buyers where they put down a 3% deposit and then they can get the house with the 3%. And then they will also give them a further $5,000 for refurb if it's a first-time homeowner and they're still not selling houses. So even the 3% is too much for people to go for, which is scary. They're trying to incentivize people to buy, and it's still difficult. And not to mention the fact that there's only 4 weeks of inventory in certain of those markets that we're playing in. So even if they do want to buy and they do have the 3%, there's no stock. So it's becoming more and more difficult for them to take part in the market.
The condos will have a more difficult exit than people,
Yeah.
banks won't lend.
If you wanted to exit today, yes. In 5 years' time, I would see no concern with that because the banks will come back into the market and lend. And in somewhere like Orlando, the complexes now are, that you don't walk around and see repossessed apartments all over the place like in some other areas. So it will change. So it's like anything in life. There's a pro and a con to everything in life. You're buying it at a reduced rate, but that is a potential risk later down the line. But I would see that changing with no problem in later down the line.
And the purpose in property anyway is to build a portfolio, not to sell necessarily.
Correct. Well, that's one of the things for me. I don't go in with the attitude of wanting to sell. So
Well, you have to have an exit strategy.
you do have to have an exit
Shouldn't be
strategy.
short term.
But that's why I told you about it.
Yeah, shouldn't be
You're not going in with your eyes open. Remember the Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
Everything's got its downside. As long as you know about it, that the house it's a potential. So